इधर इधर हाँ जी हाँ जी
सीटें करवाओ जल्दी से
मुलायम साहब जाओ जरा को यार पवन सिमरन करती हूँ सारे हमको सीट ले रहे हैं
Good morning. I would request all to be seated kindly.
Please have a seat.
मैंने भी होने पता लगा माइक संभाल के कर रहे बैठ आओ तुसी बैठ मेरी कलसी जी कलसी कुलबीर जी थोड़ा गैप दे दो यार है ना कलसी जी थोड़ा कैमरा नहीं आ रहा भाई बाबा ठीक है मेरे को आ जाओ लेफ्ट से कलसी जी Maan.
A very good morning to all. I invite you all to this honorary gathering, and I would request our worthy president, who has put on all his efforts to bring us all together for this, the biggest occasion of our High Court. Please.
Honorable Mr. Justice Surya Kant ji, Judge Supreme Court of India, Honorable Mr. Justice Sheel Nagu ji, Chief Justice, Punjab Haryana High Court, all honorable judges present here, honorable former judges, Shri Kapil, Senior Advocates, Supreme Court of India, Shri R.S. Cheema, Senior Advocate, Punjab Haryana High Court, the Learned Additional Solicitor General of India, worthy Advocate General Punjab, the worthy Advocate General Haryana, Senior Standing Counsel UP Chandigarh, Senior Advocates, Chairman, members of the Bar Council, and all my esteemed friends here, respected members of the Bar. It is my proud privilege to extend the heartiest welcome to you all to the first Shri H.L. Sibal Memorial Lecture, a humble tribute to one of the most remarkable figures in India's legal history, and for us in the Punjab Haryana High Court, the legend, Shri Sibal. We are deeply honored by the presence of Honorable Mr. Justice Surya Kant, Judge Supreme Court, who has kindly consented to deliver today's lecture, taking time out of his busy schedule. Thank you, sir. My Lord, your remarkable journey from Hisar to the Supreme Court is not only a story of legal brilliance, but also one of determination and humility. From beginning your legal practice in 1984, earning distinction as the youngest Advocate General of Haryana in 2000, and eventually being elevated as a judge of the Supreme Court of India in 2019. Your Lordship's career reflects excellence and unwavering commitment to justice. Your Lordship's academic achievements, including topping the LLM program, and your active contribution to judicial bodies such as NALSA and the Indian Law Institute, make you an exemplary figure of judicial service and scholarship. We are privileged to be able to associate ourselves with you as we belong to this bar where you once practiced with unmatched distinction. We are equally privileged to have Shri Kapil, Senior Advocate, Supreme Court of India, a towering figure in the Indian legal and political landscape. Born on August 8, 1948, and educated at the University of Delhi and Harvard Law School, Mr. Sibal began his practice in the year 1972 and was designated as a senior advocate in the year 1983. His career spans over 5 decades, having represented numerous landmark cases before the Supreme Court. He also served as Additional Solicitor General in the year 1989-90 and has been elected as President of the Supreme Court Bar a number of times, and most recently for the term 24-25. Mr. Sibal has also had an illustrious political career. First elected to the Rajya Sabha in the year 1998, he successfully contested the Lok Sabha seat from Chandni Chowk in the years 2004 and 2009. He has held several key portfolios, including law and justice, telecom, science and technology, and HRD, and was known as the intellectual face of the Indian National Congress. His contributions to legal reforms, his sharp intellect, unmatched oratory, and unwavering belief in constitutional morality makes him a worthy son of the great Shri Sibal, a continuing inspiration for every member of our profession. This memorial lecture series is not only a tribute to Shri Sibalji's starring legacy, but also a moment of reflection for us to recommit ourselves to the values of justice, fearlessness, integrity, and public service that he deeply embodied. I once again thank Honorable Mr. Justice Surya Kant ji for his gracious presence and for delivering today's address. I am grateful to Honorable the Chief Justice Shri Nagu ji for presiding over today's function. I also thank Shri Kapil Sibal for allowing us to commemorate the life and legacy of his esteemed father in such a dignified and meaningful manner. Thank you, sir. Lastly, I thank Shri Cheema, advocate, my guru and mentor, for having paved the way for this intellectual gathering. Thank you, sirs, for gracing the occasion. Thank you, everyone.
I request the President and the Vice President to present a memento to Honorable Mr. Justice Surya Kant, Judge Supreme Court of India. I would now request our Joint Secretary and Treasurer to present a memento to Honorable Mr. Justice Shri Nagu, Chief Justice Punjab and High Court, Chandigarh. I would now request our lady executive members to present a memento to Shri Kapil Sibal, Senior Advocate, Supreme Court of India. I would now request our executive members to present a memento to Shri Cheema, Senior Advocate, Punjab and High Court, Chandigarh. I would request the Honorary President to please welcome the remaining guests for their speeches. Thank you.
May I now request Shri Cheema, Senior Advocate, to throw some light on the persona of Shri H.L. Sibal, who has been a torchbearer of the Punjab and Haryana High Court for more than 3 decades, a legend of a fraternity always looked up to, and to introduce the program. Welcome, sir.
Good morning to all of you. Honorable Justice Surya Kant ji, Judge Supreme Court of India, Honorable Justice Sheel Nagu ji, Chief Justice Punjab and Haryana High Court, Honorable Judges of our Punjab and Haryana High Court, and Honorable Judges who we have gifted to the other courts, Justice Hon'ble, now the Chief Justice of J&K High Court, Justice Sanjeev Prakash Sharma, who I hesitate to call a judge of the Rajasthan High Court, Shri Justice Anil Khetarpal, Judge Delhi High Court, Justice Amit Rawal, Judge Kerala High Court. I didn't see him, but I was told he was here. Justice Arun Monga, now in Delhi High Court. The Honorable retired judges of this court, Shri Satyapal Jain, Additional Solicitor General of India, Shri Maninderjeet Singh Bedi, Advocate General Punjab, Shri Pavindra Singh Chauhan, Advocate General Haryana, Chairman and members of the Bar Council of Punjab and Haryana, President and office bearers of the Punjab and Haryana High Court, Bar Association, senior advocates, members of the legal fraternity, ladies and gentlemen. It is my great privilege to welcome you all on this historic day. And my most pleasant duty is to welcome the members of Sibal family who have come from far and wide. Some youngsters have come from across the borders, and Asha Nandaji has travelled all the way from Delhi. We are grateful to them. We are grateful to all the family members for being here. Briefly, I'll mention how this idea has taken shape. Personally, for me, today's deliberations and celebrations are like a dream come true. For the last some years, my close contemporaries in the profession, guided by our seniors, had been planning to initiate program in the bar for familiarizing young members with our glorious heritage and tradition. Icons and role models, we felt, are like guiding stars inspiring the next generation to new heights. Late Shri Hiralal Sibal and many other senior advocates, including late Shri Kaushal, late Chaudhary Harbhagwan ji, Shri D.S. Nehra, Shri Sarjeet Singh, who is present, Shri Hawa Singh Buddha, Shri Manjeet Singh Khera, who too is present fortunately, were part of a lively coffee group. Somewhere in the year 2003 or 4, Shri Sibal asked me to join the group. It was like a command. The time spent in the coffee group was exciting, enlightening, and enriching. The vibrant discussions and debates on wide-ranging issues were thought-provoking and full of intellectual content. There was abundance of Punjabi and Haryanvi humor and sarcasm, rough, rustic, robust, yet profound at the same time. We all started pressing Shri Sibal and other veterans to pen down their autobiographies as they were witness to the formation of history of the nation, particularly during the freedom struggle and after the dawn of freedom. Shri Harbhagwan Singh Ji got his autobiography published. Recently, Shri Roshan Lal Bhatta also brought out his autobiography. Shri Sibal started working on his memoirs, but the work was left incomplete. I and some of my esteemed colleagues felt it our bounden duty to start an annual lecture program in memory of our stalwarts. To start with, we formed a consensus on the names of Shri Hiralal Sibal, Shri Jagannath Kaushal, and Star Dara Singh. It is in this background that today's inaugural function is a great matter of personal satisfaction for me and my colleagues who had the good fortune to have seen him and to interact with him. Punjab and Haryana High Court shifted to these premises in the year 1955. By 60s and 70s, this High Court became identified with the towering presence of our great icon, Shri B. Sen, who was one of the first advocates of the Supreme Court to be designated as senior, published his reminiscences and reflections under the title 6 Decades of Law, Politics and Diplomacy in the year 2010. One of the chapters was devoted to his professional engagements in various high courts. And what he wrote, I thought, would be of interest to you. The Punjab and Haryana High Court bar at Chandigarh was equally hospitable to outside counsel, quite a few of whom took advantage of easy travel to and from Delhi. It was not difficult to come back the same day if it was an admission matter or even a short cause. If your instructing lawyer was vigilant enough to see that the matter was high on the court list, most of the time, now this is the part interesting for me and you, most of the time I would come back on the same day, but not without a sumptuous lunch with my old friend Hira Lal Sibal, except when my opposing counsel insisted upon giving me a lunch. So such was the presence and the place Shri Sibal occupied in the legal arena. Those of us who joined the bar in the 70s were overawed by his personality and charisma. The court had outstanding lawyers on the constitutional, service and civil side and equally eminent advocates on the criminal side. You all know, we contributed to early elevations to the apex court in the rather rarely used eminent jurist clause in the names of Shri late Justice S.M. Sikri and late Justice Kuldeep Singh. However, the young and the new entrants in the corridors of this court identified readily and completely with Shri Hiralal Sibal. His ordinarily rich voice, its voice still rings in our ears. His extraordinarily rich voice, unique command over language, and persuasive skills created an aura which was to be seen to be believed. And yet, he was a warm and amiable personality, extremely warm and kind to talented young lawyers whose performance he would keenly watch. It was a bliss to be practicing in this High Court at that time, and to be noticed by him was a real heaven. In short, he possessed all that a lawyer can dream of: unique intellectual acumen, flair for languages, and communicative expression par excellence. A deep interest and knowledge of literature in many languages, with deep roots in our cultural heritage, marked him apart. Even at the age of 95, he could fluently recall passages of Heer Waris Shah and read and recite from the poetry of Kirpal Singh Bedar and Akhtar Shirani, who had been personally close to him. As a young lawyer, he had defended Saadat Hussain Manto, the great legendary prose writer of Urdu, and Ismat Chagtai in highly publicized obscenity trials. Manto refers to him in his memorial sketches. Faiz Ahmad Faiz, the great poet, had appeared as a defense witness in one of the trials, as I would learn from Shri Sibal directly. Over the years, this is the secret I tried to find. Over the years, I discovered that he had an intense zest for life, which blessed him with the enthusiasm of a child and the optimism of youth. I would recall two incidents which would tell us he left Lahore at the age of 33 years. He was primarily then a trial lawyer and had started moving to the High Court. But two incidents which may be lost in the mist of history tomorrow needs to be briefly recalled. A group of Muslim wrestlers visited him and asked him to take up their brief. It was about the burial rites in the Qabristan. He was very hesitant. He said, "Why don't you go to a Muslim lawyer?" They said, "Most of the important Muslim persona are part of the management." And the second was very interesting. He said, "We do not trust any lawyer." No. So that is how he took their brief. This was one of the insights into the kind of person that he was. And the second is a very interesting story again. On the eve of partition, several people were facing trial. It was a period of communal riots, killing, whether you are defending or you are attacking. And 8 Hindus were facing a murder charge. They would die. If they remained in Pakistan, they would. They could be attacked in the jail also. So it was not a matter of law. So he recalled and very captivatingly recapitulated how he persuaded the British judge, telling him that this is the situation. The judge would say, "Law doesn't permit me." Eventually, he told him of the great British traditions, and it's after 2 hours of persuasion that the judge adjourned the case. The men were on bail. So these are 2 incidents which I thought I must share with you, which, if not recounted, might be lost. From his chamber, we have Justice Rupinder Singh Garewal here. We have 2 very eminent senior advocates, Shri Randeep Singh, now keeping the flag flying. We have Shri Sanjeev Sharma. We have Shri R.K. Handa. We have now well-known member of the tribunal, Rita Kohli, which I think is a temporary loss to us. She returns here. Shri Mohan Jain, Shri Elder Mr. Setia and his son, all are people who are still there. And these are, I would say, people who were directly his pupils. But the virtual age had dawned earlier. Many like me and Surya Kant ji, even Ashok Agarwal ji, we had enrolled like aspiring Eklavyas as his pupils virtually in an age when digital system had not yet set in. So there are dozens and dozens of people he has inspired and who treat him as their senior. Now, why we want this function of this kind to be started, to be perpetuated? We are people of Punjab and Haryana. We, the people of this region, have been accustomed to live on the edges of history. For centuries, we have met ferocious invaders and their brutal armies head on. That made us become habitual to a life on horsebacks and transformed us into hardy, chivalrous, and defiant people. Our spirit of courage and self sacrifice turned into legends. But while we created history, we lagged behind in conserving our heritage and preserving our legacy. A glorious past can become a guiding light for future only when the later generations imbibe and absorb the invincible and the indomitable spirit of their worthy ancestors. Today's inaugural function is our humble tribute to our great icons and role models. And it's heartening to note that Justice Surya Kant ji, now this is for the young lawyers, because we always talk of our disadvantages. It's heartening to note that Justice Surya Kant ji, who has very kindly acceded to our request to deliver the first Hiralal Sibal Memorial Lecture, is a first generation lawyer. It is equally important to recall that Shri Sibal himself was a first generation lawyer who rose to giddy heights. I, on behalf of the organizers, express my gratitude to Honorable Justice Surya Kant ji, to our Chief Justice, to Shri Kapil Sibal, and to all of you who have spared your precious time to launch this series. But I'll end only with two small ideas. One is our request to Honorable the Chief Justice to grant us permission for placing a life-size portrait of great Shri Hiralal Sibal as and when we are able to approach him in this regard. The second is a milestone I am setting for the next Hiralal Sibal Memorial Lecture. Still, we have people who have memories live and warm. If we do not conserve those memories, they will be lost. So my suggestion, which Mr. Sibal has also kindly accepted, is we will, in the course of next 6 months, prepare a book of reminiscences of various people. I'll request the family members also to write about Shri Sibal, and on the next memorial lecture, we'll release the book here. So with these words, I welcome all of you. I'm grateful to all of you to be here.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so very much for introducing us to the life that continues to illuminate us despite his physical presence, that is Shri Hiralal Sibal. May I now request Honorable the Chief Justice, Shri Sheel Nagu, to come and address the bar.
In the very beginning, my greetings and respects for all the family members of Sibal family. Honorable Justice Surya Kant, Judge Supreme Court of India. Honorable Justice Hon'ble, Chief Justice, Jammu and Kashmir High Court and Ladakh. Justice Sharma, Rajasthan High Court. Justice Kshetrapal, Delhi High Court. Justice Amit Rawal and Justice Arun Moga. My sister and brother judges on the bench. Respected senior advocates, Shri Harvinder Chauhan, Advocate General of Haryana, Shri Maninderjeet Singh Bedi, Advocate General Punjab, Shri Kapil Sibal, Senior Advocate, Supreme Court of India and Member of Parliament, Shri Satyapal Jain, Additional Solicitor General of India, Shri Amit Chanji, Senior Standing Counsel, UT, Chandigarh, Shri Sartej Singh Narula, President, and the executive members of Bar Association, Shri Rakesh Gupta, Chairman of the Bar Council of Punjab and Haryana, and other members of the Bar Council, ladies and gentlemen. We gathered here today not merely to remember an individual, but to reflect upon a legacy that transcends time, profession, and generations. In paying tribute to late Shri Sibal, senior advocate, we honor a towering figure of Indian legal landscape, whose life was a testament to the pursuit of justice, intellectual integrity, and human dignity. Born in pre-partition West Punjab, late Shri Sibal studied law and practiced in Lahore before 1947. During partition, he settled in India and began rebuilding his life and career from scratch, a feat he accomplished not with complaints but with conviction and dedication. Even early in his career, his intellect was impossible to miss. It is said that when Mr. Sibal argued, judges often leaned forward not just to hear his point but to learn from him. He was that rare breed of advocate whose submissions and dignity brought honor to the very act of advocacy. One of the most powerful reflections of his integrity came during the emergencies in 1970s. Late Shri Sibal was asked to defend the state in a preventive detention matter. When he realized that facts did not support the state's claim, he simply withdrew. That quiet stand became a loud lesson in ethics, reminding all of us that law is not a trade, it is a noble calling. To speak of Mr. Sibal only as a lawyer would be downright injustice. He was a man fluent in Urdu, Farsi, and Punjabi. His literary soul resonated in the couplets he quoted, the speeches he delivered, and the stories he told. To the younger generation, he was not just a mentor but a moral compass. To him, life and law were both stages where integrity was the only real performance. His legacy continues not just in courtrooms and legal commentaries, but also in his distinguished family. His brother, Shri S.C. Sibal, a distinguished lawyer, his son, Dr. Kapil Sibal, a legal and political stalwart, his nephew, Justice Deepak Sibal, a sitting judge of this High Court, and Justice Deepak Sibal's son, a practicing lawyer who is carrying out the legacy of the family. As Chief Justice, I often reflect upon the state of our justice delivery system. We may build infrastructure, digitize courts, and modernize procedures, but the soul of justice lies in the character of those who interpret and advocate the law. Late Shri Hiralal Sibal was a rare fusion of wisdom, humility, and constitutional commitment. And to our young advocates, let me say this: strive not to imitate late Shri Sibal's achievements, for they were unique, but emulate his values, his patience, and his dignity. Those will make you truly great. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. We are grateful for your lordships having accepted our request to preside over the function. We shall remain indebted forever. Now I feel honored to call upon Honorable Mr. Justice Shri Kant, Supreme Court Judge, to light up the first HL Memorial Lecture with his brilliance.
Justice Shri Nagu, Honorable the Chief Justice of Punjab and Haryana High Court. We have among us Justice Hon'ble, Honorable the Chief Justice of Jammu, Kashmir and Ladakh High Court. Distinguished judges of the Punjab and Haryana High Court. The Honorable judges representing now Kerala, Rajasthan and Delhi High Courts. A galaxy of former Honorable judges of this court, some of whom have been my senior in the bar as well as on the bench. Learned Additional Solicitor General of India, Shri Satyapal, Advocate General Punjab, Advocate General Haryana. Shri R.S. Cheema, Senior Advocate. Shri Kapil, Sibal, Senior Advocate. Shri Sartej, Narula, President of the Bar Association and other office bearers of the High Court Bar Association. Very distinguished gathering of the senior advocates and the members of the Punjab and Haryana High Court, especially my young friends, chairman and members of the Punjab and Haryana Bar Council. Most importantly, the family members of late Shri Hiralal Sibal, I would say led by Shri Satish Sibalji, Senior Advocate, all Sibal families, and the most moment of proud is that the second generation of the Sibal family, who both are very distinguished senior advocates and leading lawyers in Delhi High Court and Supreme Court, are also present among us. Ladies and gentlemen, very good morning. My special thanks to Shri Cheema ji and Shri Kapil Sibal for inviting me to deliver this first annual memorial lecture in tribute to late Shri Hiralal Sibal ji, an unparalleled luminary of the law, whose brilliance, multifaceted personality and humanity left an everlasting impression on all those who had the privilege of crossing his path. It feels almost impossible to attempt to encapsulate the magnitude of his contribution. His was a life that transcended professional excellence. He was imbued with the gift of the gab, a clarity of thought, and a steadfast commitment to justice. I truly believe that he was not just a towering figure in the legal fraternity, but was a symbol of fearless advocacy with an undying commitment to civil liberties, values that define the very spirit of our Constitution. Last year, I ended up in delivering two memorial lectures. One was in the memory of Soli Sorabji. The second was in memory of Shri A.K. Sen, former law minister and senior advocate of the Supreme Court, very prominent leading lawyer, civil servants, and they were probably of the same era. But this year I had a lot of, I would say, remembering about Sibal Sahib. The reason was that I was invited by the Allahabad High Court Bar Association and Shri Kanhaiyalal Memorial Committee to deliver a memorial lecture as a tribute to Shri Kanhaiyalal Mishra, a former Advocate General of UP. I spoke there on 4th January, and I wished that there was such a memorial lecture in the honor of Shri Sibal Sahib is also organized here. Thank you very much, the Bar Association, that you have done. Sibal Sahib belonged to a generation of Indians who witnessed, and I dare to say, shaped the very transformation of our nation. He completed his law education, as Cheema Sahib told, in Lahore a city that before partition was a center of intellectual and legal ferment. The era in which he began his legal career was volatile, marked by political upheaval, colonial repression, and the steering of India's freedom movement. As a young lawyer, Sibal quickly earned a reputation for fiercely taking on controversial cases, not merely to defend his clients, but to uphold the fundamental values of free expression and to challenge the excess of state power. He began his practice, as Cheema pointed out, in lower courts in 1938 with hardly any brief. This what you later on you will come to know that why I am sharing all these things. No clients and only a modest nameplate outside a small office near the slums along the Ravi River. Cheema has already explained that incident. I will not repeat it, but I believe those who contacted Cheema Sibal to engage for the burial part were the transgender people. If my memory is rightly recollecting, those were transgender community, and they wanted to bury an older person of their community who had unfortunately passed away. But there was a strong protest by the fisher folk and the police from carrying out the burial in their traditional way, that is vertically on the sandy river bank. The point is that Sibal accepted that brief, and what he argued is that decent burial is a human right. I am talking about those 1938, and on the ground of that the right to a decent burial for their departed soul, according to traditions, is a human right, and this is how that learned magistrate accepted that argument. In fact, about 2 years back, when Justice Pardiwala was my bench partner, we dealt with the right to decent burial, and we held that right is referable to Article 21. But I am just wondering, there was no Article 21, there was no constitution, there were no fundamental rights. Even the concept of human rights was also as not propounded so famously as nowadays it is called. And at that time, Sibal argued and successfully argued it and succeeded in getting a decree. But the second part of this very incident, I hope it is absolutely correct, because I have reason to believe that it's absolutely correct. The transgender community, after they succeeded, they wanted to pay a fee to Sibal, which he declined to accept. But eventually, all of them, they persuaded him, and they gave rupees 18 at that time. And when he insisted not to take it, they said, it is blessing, ये आशीर्वाद है, इसे संभाल कर रखना. And probably it proved to be a blessing, because that was the case which became a turning point. Word spread, and soon the marginalized, the poor, the voiceless, they began to seek him out. His practice grew, not through patronage or politics, but through his hard work, dedication, and professionalism. I think in a codified history, the first case of habeas corpus, even though there was no concept of habeas corpus, was also conducted by Sibal in 1943 to 1944, where a person was illegally detained in police. He approached the magistrate, not only got an order of release, the magistrate personally accompanied Sibal to get that man released. That was the professional acumen and persuasive power in those young days of Sibal. During partition, his entire family had crossed over to India, but he stayed in Pakistan, a decision born out of duty. He was representing some Hindus and Sikhs in court as a part of a committee formed by the then Justice Bhimsen Satchar, and was committed to safeguarding the rights of minorities during those turbulent times. This decision also meant that he bore witness to the horrors of partition, the communal violence, the arson, the looting, all as into his memory. His return to India was also equally if not more harrowing. Though he was aided by a close Muslim friend, the convoy he was traveling in was attacked en route to the border. His clothes were torn in the chaos, and when he finally crossed over, all he had left in his possession was a shaving kit. And yet, from that point of near total loss, he rebuilt not just as a career, but a long standing imprint. Though he initially joined his family in Jalandhar, but eventually Sibal Sahib shifted to Shimla, where the High Court had also shifted in 1948. And along with the High Court, then he came to Chandigarh in 1955. And all of you know the later history. How many series and series of constitutional benches, full benches of the High Court, all those remarkable journey running into 6 decades that compliment to the great man for an extraordinary 67 years of profession, successful professional life. All of you know that during that time, Sibal Sahib remained Advocate General twice for Punjab and twice for Haryana, where he garnered immense respect for his intellectual rigor and his deep and abiding commitment to the rule of law. Throughout his illustrious career, he remained steadfastly apolitical. This I am really, later on when I will share my own experiences. He said, we are all absolutely professional. We have nothing to do with politics when I am working as advocate. I am representing the state in terms of a constitutional position which I hold. And therefore I am not representing any political party or any politician in power. I am only representing the state. He understood the significance of politics, yet never allowed it to dictate his legal conscience. At the heart of his interpretation of the law was always the individual whose rights and dignity the law is meant to protect. All of you know that in recognition of that, he was honored with Padma Bhushan in 2006, before virtually he left the practice in 2006-7. Sibal Sahib was a person whose tastes were refined and deeply rooted in culture. He had a particular love for literature and was especially drawn to the classical beauty of Urdu poetry, as Cheema Sahib knows better than me. Cheema Sahib himself has a great liking for that poetry. But I think Alma Iqbal and Mirza Ghalib, both he was extremely fond of, because he truly added a definitive layer of richness to his life, often keeping himself in the company of poets, writers and thinkers. Dr. Munir was one of them who wrote the Evidence Act, the famous author, the jurist. He was one of the dearest friends of Sibal Sahib in Lahore. On a deeply personal note, Sibal Sahib was a mentor, a guide, and forget about the age difference, a dear friend to me during the transporting formative periods of my life. His wisdom shaped my thinking, his generosity uplifted me, and his quiet strength steadied me through pivotal moments in my journey. I remember Newton once remarked, if I have seen further, it is by standing on the shoulders of giants. He was actually for me the same thing, not just for the enormity of his intellect, but for the depth of his personality. His presence in my life was a gift, and his absence is profoundly felt. Sibal Sahib was immensely charismatic figure, and without exaggeration, I must admit one of the most striking, handsome individuals I have ever met. I count myself among the very privileged few whom Sibal Sahib not only liked and loved, but also trusted enough to share hundreds of those treasured memories with. My tryst with Sibal Sahib began. Now, how I came to in contact with Sibal Sahib, I did my law in 1984, started practice in my district courts. But after 7 or 8 months, when I shifted to High Court in February 1985, I worked for almost a year, little more than a year as junior counsel. And then in 1986 summer break, I declared that I will start my independent practice. Fortunately, I was able to get some briefs. But that was in 1987. Some clients from Nagu came to me. New Firozpur Zirka, Mewar district, all of you know. There was a political change, a political regime change in state, and with that change, the market committee was dissolved. So they came to engage me. They wanted to challenge the dissolution of the market committee. I found that they were earlier nominated by the previous government, and the new government has removed. So there is, I personally thought there is hardly any merit in the case. But they were very adamant that case has to be filed. Now, in 1987, I could not afford to be engaged in a matter where I will stand and the matter is dismissed. So I was very fearful. So I told the client that there is hardly any merit in your brief. Then they told me, as you know, Mewat clients are extremely good paying master. So they told me, बाबूजी फीस की परवाह मत करो, मुकदमा लड़ो हमारा. तो हमने कहा अच्छा सीनियर वकील करवा देते हैं. तो I took them eventually to Sibal Saab's office. Believe me, and there is nothing to hide. Each one of you know my journey. Coming from a village, then coming from a town and shifting to the High Court, living in a small rented accommodation. Entering Sibal Saab's office was for me something I felt like as if I am entering the chamber of the Chief Justice of the High Court. But he was very, very affectionate, very supportive, very cooperative. He found a young boy, I was 23 and a half year old, hardly 24-year-old. So he asked me, what is the legal point you wish to raise? I had no answer, I was unprepared. So I said, sir, they were nominated by the earlier government, new government has removed them. Under the Act, there is a provision for nomination, but subsection says they can be removed also. So to me, it's a case of doctrine of pleasure. I don't know what is the matter. So then he said, no, don't examine the case only from the administrative point of view. If they had been nominated and a particular state authority, competent authority found them suitable, they are possessing those prescribed qualifications and all these things, then removal should be based on some reason. And he asked me to dwell on this constitutional principle, that the case suffers from manifest arbitrariness. So I drafted a writ petition, and that was the first a kind of a challenge before me to draft a writ petition other than in service matter. I think 4 or 5 times I had meetings. Every time he gave me one or the other new point. I examined, incorporated, and eventually we filed the writ petition after 2-3 days. Sibal Saab argued, got a stay for us, and after a year or so, the writ petition was allowed. That was, this is how you learn a lot. What I learned was, Sibal Saab built the case on a foundational principle, that removal must be on a valid, objective reasons. That interaction was a turning point for me, and as I said, after giving so many hints to me that what are the issues to be raised, he eventually asked me to insist upon the violation of Article 14 and some other statutory provisions of the Act itself. And this is how we succeed. All these practicing years, I have been continuously meeting him. Maybe that hundreds and thousands times I had the privilege of seeking his blessings, and he would spend time with me. We'll have many a times tea together, and he will share some or the other the fond memories of Lahore. He had a elephantine memory, and he would remember everything. So was a remarkable thing. I was just 37 plus when I became Advocate General in 2000, and I vividly recollect when I took charge around 4 p.m. in the evening in AG office. I first went to the governor of the state for a courtesy call that was required, and the very next second person was Sibal Saab. I went to his residence. I told बाबूजी ऐसे ऐसे है, मैं अपॉइंट हो गया हूँ, अब मेरे को आपको गाइड करना पड़ेगा, मुझे पता नहीं है जी कैसे चलाते हैं इसे. He very genuinely was delighted to see me appointed to that post at young age, and assured me that he would always be available to guide me. I can say with certainty that he kept his promise and remained a source of indispensable advice and encouragement throughout my tenure. Our paths also continued to cross over the Senior Advocates Bar Association was established. Cheema will also recollect in 2003, Sibal Saab in fact decided that the senior advocates also can have a separate platform as a Senior Advocates Bar Association. We all assembled, unanimously requested Sibal Saab to be the chairman of the association, and I was one of the fortunate among the young senior lawyers whom he took a part of his team. Thereafter, the association was formally established. One gesture I will never forget and which remains ingrained in my heart is that despite the passage of time and change in roles, he never failed to personally visit me and shower his blessings on my birthday, year after year. After my elevation in 2004 and after he left the profession in 2006 and 7, on 10th February, my wife and me, morning we knew that Sibal Saab will come. Maybe he will come for 5 minutes and he will carry a bouquet, would bless me, and maybe he knew in the morning that normally that I have to reach on court, so he will just simply come for 2 minutes. That quite thoughtful sensitivity from someone of his stature is something I always cherish. This memory is tinged with some degree of sorrow as well, because when he passed away in 2012, I remember only before that I got a call on my birthday. He said, Surya Kant, I am not feeling well. मैं आज आ नहीं पाऊंगा भाई. मैंने सोचा तुम्हारा बर्थडे है तो तुम याद रखो. He conveyed his blessings and warm wishes to me. That was before 2012. I hope that the younger generation in this bar, or even in the entire India, believes that such a man of caliber, grace, and moral grandeur once adorned the Punjab and Haryana bar, and that there may never be another quite like him. When I come to his professional contributions, it's difficult to explain or even briefly point out in 1 hour or 2 hours. Sibal Saab was not a successful individual lawyer, he was an institution in himself. You name any branch of law where he has not delivered outstandingly, it's very difficult to say. So for this purpose of today's lecture, when I was trying to go through, you touch the criminal law, you will find him arguing death sentence matters, references. You talk to service matters, you will find that all Pyara Singh and all other Supreme Court judgments are again Sibal Saab's creation. You name any subject, but eventually what I found was that the most, I think, interesting subject, probably which was close to his heart, was the election matters. Constitutional provisions with reference to the democratic rights or the election matters. So then I thought that let me concentrate to share my views on this subject. Among the important subjects where his contribution is something unparalleled is of course protecting literary freedom and defending expressions. His legacy extends far beyond that. He was virtually a staunch defender of the Constitution. You would name any chapter or any provision of the Constitution, something extraordinary performed by him is traceable there. His case roster was as diverse as it was impressive, spanning constitutional law, taxation, environmental matters, service law, and so many other things. One of the earliest reported instances with reference to the election law I am talking about Sibal Saab was the judgment of this court in Jagannath's case. That case involved an election petition alleging corrupt practices in the context of candidates having subsistence the contracts with government subsisting contracts. The argument was that when you are a government contract, then you hold an office of profit and therefore it amounts to corrupt practice. Sibal Saab argued, and very successfully otherwise, that taking a government contract at the time of election, it does not amount to holding an office of profit, and therefore it is not a case of corrupt practice. This view taken by this court was eventually approved by the Supreme Court also. Then in Om Prakash Lalchand matter, Sibal Saab again appeared in Supreme Court There he appeared representing the appellant, and again on the point of corrupt practice, the allegations were that there were defamatory posters and appeals to religious sentiments. Sibal Sahib very successfully conveyed and got the High Court judgment set aside where election was annulled, holding that this kind of defamatory speeches or posters or whatever allegations are there of inciting religious sentiments, this does not amount to corrupt practice. Series of judgments right from Madhya Pradesh, Saklecha, all in fact throughout the country, then politicians started engaging Sibal Sahib in Supreme Court in all these matters. But one common thread you will find is that in all cases of corrupt practices, Sibal Sahib argued before the Supreme Court and invariably successfully pleaded that it's not a case of corrupt practice. I was trying to understand that why he argued so fervently, why he was so emotionally charged and so passionately argued on the question of compassionate corrupt practice. What it emerges is that he was fortifying the integrity of India's justice delivery system through this masterful deployment of legal intellect. In fact, whether as Advocate General or otherwise, his advocacy reveals a deliberate and principled pattern of defending the rule of law and assisting the constitutional courts with utmost fidelity. To my opinion, his enduring contributions as a vertebral doyen of the bar not only inspire public confidence in the judiciary but also reaffirm the judiciary's own conviction that it treads the correct constitutional path, a path charted by drafters of the Constitution and sustained by those who devoted their lives to the vigilant preservation. As a tribute to Sibal Sahib, I wish to briefly share my thoughts that his contribution on the rich and evolving jurisprudence that safeguard the integrity of our electoral democracy. It is a domain he championed with unmatched conviction and one that continues to reflect the values he held so dear. While talking about the contribution of Sibal Sahib in the democratic electoral issues, I am just imagining, if I may borrow a metaphor from the physics, namely democracy, like nuclear fusion, holds immense generative power, but as with any powerful force, it demands principled restraint. The Constitution serves as its containment chamber, shaping and guiding that energy, and it is the judiciary that plays the role of the stabilizing code, ensuring that this power does not fracture into chaos, but is channeled in service of constitutional order and justice. And that is what precisely the contribution of Sibal Sahib as a professional legacy. He would always argue with respect to the power of judicial review under Article 32 and 226 and 227 of the High Court. And I take it his compliment. It is one of those stalwarts, one of those the pillars of the Indian bar, to whom the entire credit goes for persuading the Supreme Court to develop this constitutionalism in those directions. Over time, this expanding horizon of judicial review has brought within its ambit newer and increasingly nuanced dimensions of democratic governance. One such example, the Supreme Court in Common Cause, where the Supreme Court took note of widespread non-compliance of political parties in filing mandatory financial disclosures and the rampant overspending in election. Recognizing the corrosive impact of such practices on electoral integrity, the court directed to ensure strict enforcement of existing financial regulations. In Narasimha Rao's case, the Supreme Court clarified that members of parliament cannot claim absolute immunity from criminal prosecution in cases involving bribery for speeches or voter casting house. The court held that since legislators fall within the definition of public servants under the PC Act, they are subject to criminal liability when they engage in conduct that compromise the sanctity of parliamentary functioning. The principle of judicial review or parliamentary proceedings was categorically affirmed then in Raja Rampal, particularly in the face of fundamental rights violations. This principle was similarly extended to the internal actions of legislative bodies that all of you know in Mohan Raj's case. The ambit of judicial review was also extended to orders of the Speaker, albeit on limited grounds of mala fide, perversity, violation of constitutional mandate, or breach of natural justice, that is in Bala Sahib Patil. This reminded me coincidentally of a similar matter in which Sibal Sahib was engaged on behalf of the state in Balbir Singh case, where also he questioned and very successfully questioned the Speaker's decision. That judgment by this court, where he argued, was upheld by the Supreme Court. In Supreme Court also, I believe Sibal Sahib defended the judgment of this court. Another vital dimension of constitutional adjudication, and what I believe is one of the most fascinating aspects of our democracy, is the judiciary's role in safeguarding free and fair elections. In any democracy, elections are not mere procedural events. They are foundational to legitimacy and often vulnerable to misuse. The power of judicial review to invalidate tainted elections and disqualify those who engage in electoral malpractices serves not only as a deterrent but as an important mechanism to uphold the integrity of our democratic process. In a country as diverse as ours, with democracy permeating every level, the judiciary serves as a stabilizing force, representing the not vote banks but constitutional values. It reinforces public trust and ensures that the lifeblood of democracy continues to flow unblemished. As the Supreme Court resolutely observed, the principle of fair and free elections forms an essential part of our basic structure. One of the more visionary strides taken by our constitutional courts has been the expansive interpretation of Article 324, empowering the Election Commission to placidly supervise elections independently and with decorum while simultaneously securing the foundational freedom and democratic guarantees over to every citizen. This commitment is reflected in ethos of the decision in Brindaban Nayak, where the court affirmed that any citizen may raise a question of disqualification by submitting a complaint to the governor, who in turn will refer the matter to the Election Commission. In Sadiq Ali, you know how the Supreme Court expanded the powers of the Election Commission of India and authorized with sweeping directions to ensure that the Election Commission had enough power to include the smooth conduct of elections, including assessing information relating to candidates' assets, educational qualification, and prior antecedents. Equally, this also very significant contribution by Supreme Court in Narendra Kheni's case, where it was clarified that the electoral roll, once attains finality, then inclusion, deletion, or correction beyond that point would be impermissible and contrary to the object of Section 23 of the Representation of People Act. These are the judicial barriers created to prevent any misuse of the democratic process. And these are the matters, these are the principles which I am highlighting only to point out that this is the chain, this is the stream where Sibal Sahib, a stalwart like him, contributed, and what they argued in 60s or 70s or in 80s, that eventually the Supreme Court, that jurisprudential development by Supreme Court in ensuring fair and free elections is what a real contribute and complement to them. A notable example by Supreme Court is in PUCL, where the Supreme Court struck down 33B section of ROPA, The court held that the right to know relevant information about contesting candidates, their criminal antecedents, assets, and liabilities is also a fundamental right of the people. More recently, in Sita Soren's case, Supreme Court has reaffirmed the corruption and bribery by legislators undermine public trust and that the foundational principle of democracy are subject to the ordinary criminal law of the land. Our constitutional courts have also played a pivotal role in breathing life into the anti-defection provisions introduced by virtue of the 52nd Amendment into the 10th Schedule to the Constitution. I vividly recollect a full bench argued in first court, court number 1 here, where the anti-defection law provisions were there, and how Sibal Saab argued for almost 1 week that matter. These are the contributions, how he successfully brought a matter of the changing of the party within the mischief of 10th Schedule. These provisions, eventually the Supreme Court said, meant to preserve the sanctity of our parliamentary democracy, provide for the, and further, it definitely provides a sanctity to the democratic values. Then in Kyoto Holon, the court upheld the law's constitutional validity while crucially holding that the Speaker's decisions under it are not beyond judicial scrutiny. Over time, a series of decisions have both expanded and clarified the contours on the Speaker's power. In J. Viswanath, the Supreme Court said that the Speaker's orders disqualifying 2 candidates who had been expelled from one political party on the ground that they had joined a rival political party was upheld, because this is how the spirit of 10th Schedule and anti-defection law was understood. While these may be some of the more prominent landmark decisions, constitutional courts routinely find themselves engaged in adjudicating a wide array of electoral disputes ranging from the casting of invalid votes and errors in counting to the allegations of coercion or undue influence by candidates to symbol-related conflicts between rival factions or newly fragmented political parties and other manifestations of electoral misfeasance. These cases, though less celebrated, are no less vital in safeguarding the sanctity of our democratic process. Yet in navigating the complex terrain of electoral disputes, courts have held that they must hold one principle above all, that the will of the people. I am coming to that point when I was saying that why in every case of corrupt practice, Sibal Saab's argument was to persuade the courts to have a very conservative view, a conventional view, not to accept the allegation of corrupt practice just on platter or just only because there are sweeping statements made to that effect. The reason was simple. He wanted that the will and wish of the people must be respected by the court. Someone has been elected, allegations are bound to be there. So therefore those elections, of course, if those do not satisfy the test of judicial scrutiny, then court will have to intervene. But merely because there are some allegations against a candidate who has won the election, unless it is found to be a case of hijacking the system or completely misdirecting the voters, his entire contour of argument was that the respect, the sentiments, will and wish of the voters, the electorate must be respected by the courts. And that was the principle in recently, in fact, in one of the judgment in Manisha Patil's case, I held that you can't, through the executive fiat or through the tribunals, you can't interfere in the electoral mandate like this. That only merely an excuse, making that this candidate has disqualified this, or that after or before or post election the candidate has earned any disqualification and therefore you set aside it. The people will need to be the first element or consideration the court keep in mind as an integral part of public trust. Their removal, therefore, we said, is completely arbitrary and based on complete whims and fancies, and the court interfered. Similarly, it's not that speakers or anybody's decision, when I was talking that there is a limited scope of judicial review, but where the courts have found that yes, the order suffers from any manifest arbitrariness or perversity, or for any reason, the courts is bound to interfere. And this principle recently in the case of Bihar, where a member was removed by on the recommendations of the committee by the chairman of the assembly on account of a misconduct, which of course had been proved. I took the view that yes, in judicial review we will not go into the question of fact that whether he had committed this kind of misconduct or not, but we proceeded on the premise that he had committed this misconduct. But then I applied the doctrine of proportionality in the matter of even award of punishment by the speaker or by the chairman of the legislative council or any other constitutionally prescribed authority. And applying the doctrine of proportionality, we held that removal of a member completely for all the entire term, the left out term, is absolutely arbitrary. It's an excessive punishment, and therefore we interpret in that matter. This delicate balance between the voters' will, right, and the mandate which a elected candidate is carrying with him, and the too much interference by an authority. There has to be a delicate balance to act where rights are imperiled and to abstain where politics prevails. That reflects the hallmark of an evolved constitutional code. It's a testament to a judiciary that is both principled and restrained, both yet bound by constitutional principles. Ladies and gentlemen, I bring my address to a close. I hope that amid these reflections, there was something of value for each of you to carry with you. Before I take your leave, I would like to express my heartfelt gratitude to the Punjab Haryana High Court Bar Association for so thoughtfully organizing this event in honor of such a distinguished and accomplished individual. I am truly humbled to have been invited to speak at the very first memorial lecture dedicated to the memory of Sibal Sahib. To the Sibal family, I extend my deepest gratitude for allowing us to partake in this solemn remembrance. Your grief is felt by all who had the privilege of knowing Sibal Sahib, but so too is the immense pride in the life he led and the ideals he embodied. May his legacy continue to illuminate our path, not merely through memorial lectures, but through lives steadfastly committed to justice, equity, and the unwavering pursuit of truth. I was trying, I am not a person who regularly reads Mirza Ghalib or any other Urdu poet, but I thought that let me try to collect Mirza Sahib's one शेर एटलीस्ट जो सिबिल साहब को बहुत पसंद था, तो जो मुझे याद आया मैं वो बोल करके आपको अपनी मिजाज लूंगा। बस की दुश्वार है हर काम का आसा होना, बस की दुश्वार है हर काम का आसा होना, आदमी को भी मयसर नहीं इंसान। थैंक यू वेरी मच। जय हिंद।
Thank you, sir. Thank you so very much for so beautifully sketching out the life and persona of Shri H.L. Sibal. The lecture was not only educative, but also shows us the way forward. So thank you so much, sir. So now I welcome Shri Kapil Sibalji to express his word of thanks for the gathering here.
The Honorable Mr. Justice Surya Kant, Judge of the Supreme Court of India, Honorable Mr. Justice Sheel Nagu, Chief Justice of the Punjab and Haryana High Court, Honorable Judges of the Punjab and Haryana High Court present here, Chief Justice of the Jammu and Kashmir High Court present here, Judges of other High Courts present at this function, the President of the Punjab and Haryana High Court Bar Association, Shri Sartej Singh Narula, my good friend, Shri R.S. Cheema, who is the inspiration for this particular event, senior advocates present here, members of the family of the late Shri Sibal, all present here. As a vote of thanks, I'm not going to give anecdotes about my father, but I stand here on behalf of my family to deliver this vote of thanks. I am reminded of how the hand of fate destroyed lives during partition. Those who were victims of the monumental tragedy. When India was partitioned, faced almost insurmountable challenges, but chose to confront them with courage and commitment. I am reminded of the time when our family was uprooted from the home. My father stayed back, hoping that he would not have to move away from his home. He sent his family, including his children and parents, across the border to India and waited for the violence to subside. The family had no news of him, and my mother wondered what had happened to him. I sometimes shudder at the thought that if my father had not returned, what would have happened to us? I would not be standing here. My mother had no means of livelihood. And with young children, would have found it impossible to provide the necessary wherewithal for us to stand on our own feet. It was fate that helped my father survive. And he was the only provider for their family. So I stand here on behalf of my family to thank Providence, the Almighty, for giving my father the opportunity to live a life of dignity, following values he so cherished of honesty, of hard work, generosity, and the desire to help others. I thank fate for that. So thank you, Justice Surya Kant, for being here on this very emotional moment for us. The beginning of a chapter when annually lectures will be held in my father's memory. But more important than that, the reminiscences that you so provided in the course of this particular inaugural event will remain with us for years to come. For it tells us not just about my father, but about you. How you respected the values that made him the man he was. How you respected the values of honesty, of empathy, of standing for the rights of others. And the little anecdotes that you have told us today will be etched in our memories for years to come and will be an inspiration for many of those who are present here. That we as members of the bar are not members of any political party. We may be, but when we are advocates and we stand before judges of the court, we are the sentinels of the Constitution. we stand there to uphold the rule of law and the dignity of the individual. Our political affiliation will be outside the court, but has no place within the court. That is what my father always held in high esteem. That is what my father always cherished and held. And that is why he was held in high esteem, not just in this part of the country, but throughout this part of the world, but throughout the country. He made us proud for what he was and for the years he practiced in the bar. He was a leading light of the profession in this part of India and therefore respected by all. In his later years, he was revered by all and touched the hearts of all those who he met. And there are stories which is not the occasion for me to tell today of the kind of people he influenced in the years to come. And during his lifetime, how he kept up with them, his friendship, his empathy, his encouragement. And I am really touched by the fact, sir, that you are here this evening for us. Because I know it's a Sunday, and I know you have to go back, and I know you have to read 60, 70, 80 briefs. And when I watch you in court, you know more about the brief than we do. Quite like my father, who knew more about the brief than anybody else. I thank my good friend, Mr. Cheema, senior advocate of this court, for constantly urging me to set up in a structural manner so that his contribution to the profession should never be forgotten. It is pursuant to our frequent conversations that I decided to create a corpus with a sizable contribution to hold this annual lecture series and also for outreach events throughout the districts of Punjab and Haryana. The contours of these outreach programs will be decided soon. Thank you, Mr. Cheema, for helping me to set this up. I thank Shri Sartej Singh Narula, President of the Punjab and Haryana High Court Bar Association, who was kind enough to accompany my friend Shri Cheema to Delhi to offer the services of the Bar Association in this event. As we hold this annual lecture series, the subsequent presidents of the Bar Association shall be secretaries to the event. I thank the members of the Bar being here today, honorable judges, senior advocates, those who come from one side, in such large numbers, and especially on a Sunday, as we begin a new chapter in the memory of my father. I thank the honorable judges of the bench. Some of you may have known him, and many of you may not have known him. Occasionally, when referring to presidents, each of you will get a flavor of his persona, his arguments, and his contributions to the development of law as you go through the judgments of this court. I thank my family for encouraging me to start this series of lectures. I thank my brothers, my sister, and all the members of the Sibal family. I also thank those who are watching us through the link provided for the live streaming of this event. I thank the staff members of this court and of the bar who have helped and contributed in organizing this event. Thank you all for being here.
May I invite Mr. Bhardwaj to present his memento to Shri Kapil. Now, before requesting the August bar that is gathered here to stay back for lunch, I would take the liberty of requesting Honorable Mr. Justice Surya Kant and Honorable the Chief Justice Shri Nagu to inaugurate the reconstructed and re-established room number 4 and the ladies' bar room, which was completely gutted in the unfortunate fire incident that occurred on 23rd of June 2025. The construction and finishing has been completed in a record time of 1 month due to the untiring efforts of the executive body and the staff of the bar. Thank you, team. Thanks. A special thanks to our treasurer, Shri Harvinder Singh Maan, who has been almost sleeping here to get the work complete. And incidentally, room number 4 was earlier inaugurated by none else than Justice Surya Kant himself. And so I take this opportunity to request him to do the honors today also.